today I have someone for you that you've been asking to come back because you just loved her talking about Portugal. So for everyone who wants to see Luisa again, she's back. Yay.
Hi, everyone.
Hi. So we have the chat box going. We have Super Chat going on, and we are just going to chat for an hour about Portugal. How does that sound?
It sounds great. I couldn't get over how many people were like in the comments of our last video together. I mean, it was really active, wasn't it? There was so much going on. So yeah, I think it's good to get the chance to chat again.
Yes, it's very good. I think one of the biggest topics that we saw people talking about, well, there are actually a lot, but I want to talk about heating again because people had so many comments about like house heating and what to look for and where is all of this going on and everything. So I want you to give maybe top 3 things you would advise people when looking for a place. What should they keep in mind as far as heating, cooling, temperature stuff goes inside the house?
Yeah, it's a funny one because immediately after, so many people put in the comments, all you need to do is open your windows and things won't get damp. I didn't respond to most of those because I'd have had the same response again and again and again. I could have copied and pasted it. I do actually open my windows in the winter because things do get damp, but they still got damp anyway. So that's not always advice. I just wanted to make that really clear from the outset. I guess one thing that people need to know right from the word go is that it does get cold in the winter. And if you're used to living in a house with heating, you'll be probably quite surprised because, you know, for most Brits, and I'm sure it's the same for you guys in America, you probably expect to stay around the same temperature all year round in your house. You know, and your houses are built to keep in the warm, and you have cooling when you need it and heating when you need it. And it's just a little bit different, you know, apart from new builds over here. And I've lived in one new build since I've been here in the 4 years. We lived just south of Lisbon in a lovely place called Aroeira, and we had underfloor heating, and it was perfect. And you know, we didn't have to pay any additional premiums for the electricity used because the person who had built this house had it fitted with real sort of really high eco certification. So he'd really researched it. But for most people, I don't think that's the case. A lot of people are refitting old homes. And I think for that, you need to get an expert in. Like my advice, first of all, is have hot water bottles, have as many as you can, because they don't cost too much to run. So get hot water bottles, get warm socks, have lots of blankets, because you're going to need them. Also have dehumidifiers. I would say that's one of the biggest bits of advice, because you can heat a room as much as you like, but if it's also quite moist and there's a high moisture content in there, it kind of gets it just gets damp. It gets damper and damper. And if you're drying your clothes in the winter in your house as you're heating it, you're just going to have a massive damp problem. So there's all these things that we've come across. And, you know, for some people who've been living here for years, you're going to be seasoned to it, and you're just going to say, that's just so basic, you know. But if you're not used to that, and you're used to the way you live in America or in the UK, where things are kind of set up for different temperatures, it's going to be a shock. So, you know, most Portuguese people dry their clothes outside or go to a laundrette and actually dry them. So in the winter, what we've tended to do, because we haven't had a dryer and we haven't always had space to dry our clothes, in the winter we've washed our clothes at home and kind of planned it so that we could nip down to the local self-service, you know, washing place. I can't remember even what they're called now, and tumble dried everything in one go, and that really, really helps. Some of the places we've lived in have had wood burners, and they've been great. One of the things you want to think about is how the air is going to get circulated around your room. So I know that you can get these little special fans that go near your wood burners so that the heat distributes, because like where we were just staying, it was fantastic. It heated one room, but the heat didn't go beyond into the other room. So you might want to think about how you can distribute it. We've also lived in a house where there was a fireplace and it was connected to a boiler, and it was heating out hot water that went out to the radiators. So it was run by the fireplace. And I think quite a few people have put those in. I think a lot of expats have put that in. They've used that as a way of heating. But a lot of people, when they first arrive, you know, they're so cold, and the first thing they do is they go out and they buy an electric heater, or an oil-filled radiator, which you plug in. And whilst they're really good in an urgent situation, like we had, you know, a small child and a baby, you know, one winter, and it was like, oh my God, we need to heat really, really quickly. And so that's what people do. But the cost of electricity here is pretty big. So anything you can do to warm up is important. So like if you're buying a house, if you're making the decision to buy a house, I would absolutely recommend that you start thinking about it before the summer and get your heating in place by October, because by November, and to be fair, we've not really needed to put heating on until November time. That's when you'll need it, from November through to February, possibly even March.
Yeah, which is good. Actually, here we've got something on the screen. Aardvark, I saw that you were saying, you know, I know about humidity because I'm from Florida, which is so true. The housing is a little different, but Aardvark is actually asking what the weather is like in October in general. And Aardvark, I think, just put a super chat up there. Thank you for that. Wow. So Aardvark, let's answer that question. Louisa, what do you think? What would you say? What's the weather like in general? I mean, I know it's a kind of a long country and weather will vary, but give us a quick little like breakdown. What you would say.
We've been in the central part, so we've been no higher than Coimbra, or a little bit higher than Coimbra, and no lower really than just south of Lisbon. So we've been very much in the centre, and we've been closer to the coast than inland, you know, so that kind of gives you an idea as to where we are geographically. October for the last 3 years has been really nice. And just in the last week, or possibly the first week in November, it just starts to rain and it just starts to get a bit cooler. But we've been in short sleeves most of the time. It's almost like we've had these, what are known as, we call them Indian summers in the UK, where we have a really kind of late blast of sunshine. So October, I think, has been really nice. I've really enjoyed it. But like November, it starts to get cold. It starts to get damp. One thing we noticed when we were living in the country is a lot of Portuguese people started lighting their fires at the end of September, midway through October. And my husband and I were just like, wow, well, a bunch of lightweights, you know, it's still really warm. Why are they doing that? We couldn't work it out. And actually, somebody explained that some of the older people, they start drying their houses out before it starts getting damp. They start just really like conditioning it. They just start drying things. And I don't know. I mean, I've never done that myself to see if it has had any benefit, but it's just what I've observed. You know,
that makes sense.
Sure. I'm just, you know, sharing what I've experienced.
Yeah. I mean, that makes sense. Someone who's used to it, who lives here and who's been here for a long time, kind of, you learn those little tricks that you can do. If you don't have, I noticed that Thunderduck said that they rented a place with central heating, which is not a very common thing here. So if you don't find something like that, that is definitely newer. And even in the new builds, it's not necessarily there. But that is definitely a good technique to do. If you know what you're doing, I guess, is drying things out in October. Because you're right, like the weather, I mean, up here in Porto, we were still sitting outside at cafes in October. And I saw that Rita put about 17 to 20 Celsius. But yeah, it's still nice. I mean, even in the northern part, I mean, 70s sitting outside of the cafe, and it's not raining or anything yet in October. So October is a really good time.
I love it.
Yeah, I mean, it's a nice time to visit.
You can still pick fruit from a tree. You know, I think we were still getting possibly as late as end of September, beginning of October. I think we were still getting figs on our trees last year. I mean, we had a lovely season. It was beautiful. And like 17 to 20 degrees, Rita, in England, that's the height of summer. For us, that's like, whoa, that's so hot.
Oh, that's funny. Okay, Aardvark has another question. Has Portugal officially opened to U.S. tourists yet?
I don't know.
So we know that they have opened up to the Brits. That happened this past Monday. And already in Porto, I don't know how it is for you, Louisa, but in Porto, we're definitely seeing a bump in tourism. You can see that the city's becoming even more alive with people who are clearly visiting. As far as U.S. tourists, though, it does not seem like it, But I did read this past week that the EU was meeting and the president was talking about really trying to open up for the summer for more tourists, depending on the country. And US was one of those that they were trying to open up. And it seemed like at minimum, you'll need a negative COVID test, the PCR test, of course. And then having the vaccine will definitely be super helpful as well. But it doesn't seem like anything has officially opened yet for the US, but I think that it's going to happen in June, maybe July at the latest. But it looks like it's working that way. So that's good to know. So before we set this up, some people wrote in with some questions. Heating was one of them. I know that a lot of people are asking about shoe shopping because you mentioned that. I mean, again, like we talked about in our chat, and guys, if you haven't seen that chat, it's awesome. We'll put it in the description so you can watch it after this. But we had a chat about 6 weeks ago or so, and shoes came up. And I don't have an issue with shoe shopping because I am short and I have a small foot. But Louisa, explain your situation, where you go shopping for shoes. How do we do shoes here?
Well, my advice is if you are slightly bigger than the average Portuguese person, to go and shop in the forums because they have international stores that you might see in other countries. So, I mean, I'm not a huge person. I'm really average British build, and I've got average size feet, like a 39 European, which is a 6 in England, but it's slightly bigger than the average size. Like in the UK, when things are on sale, you can usually get a size 6, no problem, and size 3s, 4s, and 5s. They're not the ones that are sort of so available, because like they always over order more of the size that I am. But over here, it's just harder. So like you're looking for a 5 and a 6, you might have to just look a bit harder. But if you've got bigger feet than that, like a size 7, which is a 40, 41, 42, as a woman, you might struggle. So I would absolutely recommend you go to a forum where you'll find something like an H&M, which is where most of the international people, when they come, they go to those shops. And there's like United Colours of Benetton and things like that. A lot of the local shops that I have been to in some of the smaller towns, the clothes have been so much smaller. And I noticed, like when I was in Italy for a very brief time, when I went shoe shopping there and clothes shopping, everything was just so much smaller. And I'm not a huge person, I'm not like really tall, but like your arms, like just everything is kind of like 3/4 length. It's not quite there. So yeah, if you're slightly bigger or even average in your own country, you might find it easier to shop in the forums. And also,
let me cut you off real quick. For Americans, when you say forums, Americans, she's talking about malls. We call them malls. So I think we might have had some questions about that when you mentioned forums before. So for Americans, that's just malls, which are very common for us. But yeah, so malls that will have big international brands.
Yeah. In the UK, I'm trying to think what we call them, because we don't call them malls and we don't call them forums. I just call them forums because that's what they're called here. And most big cities here have what's known as a forum. Sometimes they have 2. And the forums tend to have the same shops. So I think there must be an overarching company that does it everywhere and agrees that, each of these shops has a shop front in each of their forums. So they're really formulaic. If it's a forum with a continent, that there's going to be an H&M, there's going to be a whole bunch of stuff like Vodafone and whatnot.
Yeah, the standard stuff. Okay, guys, we're seeing a lot of questions roll in, and we'll try to get to everything, and especially the ones that were sent in before. But I do want to mention that Super Chat is open. So if you do want to get your question definitely seen, then you can do something with Super Chat. We've got something here. Someone's asking, Louisa, what are the biggest surprises, shocks, or differences you found compared to the way we typically live in the UK?
Hi, Jordania. I hope I pronounced that right. I think the biggest thing is that children don't go to bed so early here. So I haven't seen it so much in this last year because I haven't really been out that much. But when I was going out a lot, children are included in the everyday life. That's just the way it is. And you go to a restaurant and there's children there, and children will be there up until 10, 11, 12 at night sometimes until the place closes. And so children are definitely part of the family. So if that's different for you and you're used to, I don't even know if you have children or whether you have babysitters and stuff like that, but the expectation that children are in bed by 7 in the UK and don't really go out with the family, it's just not seen here. That was one of the biggest surprises, which I found actually quite liberating, because we are not very structured as a family. We're very much kind of, we live as if we're on holiday the whole time, even though we've been here 4 years. Every day is like an opportunity for us to explore and do something new. So we are like perpetual tourists, which means anything goes at any time. So that was a delight. The other surprise was just how much, how many festas they have, in local towns, and just how worthwhile it is to go to them. There's a real sense of joy and real pride that I've noticed in the Portuguese communities. So, for instance, like a lot of the children from the local schools will all get together, and they'll have well rehearsed little scenes and lovely musicals and things like that get put on at these events, and that's always surprised me. It feels like such a collective effort. Trying to think what else has surprised me. Stray
I would
dogs.
say stray dogs. Yeah.
It's the same old thing. Slippy floors. But I think I said that last time as well, and that's one for the winter as well. If you don't dehumidify and you've got ceramic floors, how slippy they are, in the winter is very shocking and surprising.
I would think too, I think you talked a lot about this last time, is how about how friendly people are, especially when you get out of the bigger cities. I mean, Lisbon's a little different because it's a capital city, a lot going on, but even in Porto, which is a big city, and then even down from that, people are so friendly. And I know that Carl, your husband, has mentioned like people just bringing over like fruits, right? You'll just have a bag of fruits that like sitting by your door. I mean, like, so that is something that is definitely different. Look, and Carl is chiming in right now. This woman is good. Get some love from the hubby. But I mean, let's talk about the people here and how friendly they are.
They are absolutely beautiful people, really warm, really friendly, and nothing is too much trouble. So, for instance, we've been to shops before and needed help. Or like needed something special, and people go out of their way to help you in situations where people might just say, no, we don't do that. The Portuguese mentality that I've come across is like, let me help you, hang on, let's see. And sometimes they go off on their own little journey to help you. It's almost like it feels like they really want to serve you and help you out. And sometimes, you might not actually need that level of support, but they're really, really helpful. The other thing that I've noticed about them is like if they come over to your house, they'll bring loads of gifts. They'll bring lots of stuff with them, like so much more than you're ever expecting. Like, we might say to somebody, like, come over, come and eat and stuff. And they'll come over with a big old cake that their grandmother made or something like that. We had a babysitter, and she used to turn up, and her mum would make biscuits and cakes for our kids really, really regularly, and just we're just not expecting it, but they just like to share stuff, and they would bring stuff out of their garden. We've had so many clothes bags. We haven't needed to buy clothes for our children, because once people know you've got them and they've got stuff to give, they just share it.
People are so generous and so nice here, which is amazing. Okay, let's move on. And we got questions rolling in like crazy. Amazon. This is a good one because I actually recently ordered something from Amazon US, very specific. Have you, I'll answer in a second, but have you ordered anything from Amazon? Amazon Spain, UK, US, any of them?
Actually, the one I've used is Amazon.de. So it's the German one. Now, some bits that you can get from there, they won't deliver to Portugal, but most things they do. So I really like ordering in health supplements and things like that. And there's a really good chain of shops that you can find in the forums or the malls called Celeiro, and it's really good. But if you want something really specialist, I used to get them on eBay, but Amazon's my next port of call. And Amazon.de is really, really good. It's very, it seems to have more access to things than Amazon.es, which is the Spanish one.
It definitely does. Yeah, I've noticed that. I was looking for something very specific because we're getting ready to travel. And for those of you who don't know, we're getting ready to do a 3-month project all throughout Portugal where we're going to jump into different cities that will be livable for expats. So we're not doing tourism things, but we're gonna jump in. We're going to stay in a place for a couple weeks, and we're going to highlight what it would be like living there as an expat. So you guys be ready for that to come.
Where are you going?
Actually, well, we're heading out next week, and we're going to start down south, and then we're going to make some big announcements coming up in a couple weeks that we want the audience to help kind of dictate where we're going to go. So we're going to announce all that stuff, so you guys be on the lookout for that. But because of that, I was looking for something very specific for Valencia, because we have a pack and play, but it's heavy. It's still kind of clunky and a pain. So I wanted to try to find something, especially now that she's a little older than when we first moved here. I wanted to find something that was just like a very packable and very light. And I found this amazing tent. It's literally like a little baby tent in a way that they can sleep in it. They can have it outside. And it's only, the small one is 4 pounds and the big one is 6 pounds. And it breaks down to like this big. It's so tiny and so perfect. But it was not on the UK, the Spain, or the German Amazon. It was only on the US one. Wow. And I couldn't find anything that was similar that had as good of reviews for this brand. So I had to get it from the US, and it was a bit of a pain because shipping was more. And of course they build in these like really crazy taxes. So for you guys that were asking about Amazon, you can get stuff from the US, but it will be higher shipping and it will be taxed because they want you to keep it within the EU. So they really want you to use the EU Amazon. So if you do that, then it's less for sure. You'll still get like some import taxes, I think, just a little bit, just the normal stuff that you would get. But if you're going to get it from the US, it's going to be more. But the problem is the variety from the US is higher. Honestly, though, it's probably best if you're not super brand loyal to something, try to find something similar in Portugal or on a website that ships here for less. It would be the ideal thing. But for me, I needed this one specific thing that was not on the other Amazons, and so I had to get it from the US one. But I'm super happy with it, and she loves it. So,
amazing.
So it's gonna be good. It's gonna be good. And then I did see another one. Go ahead.
It's wild. I can't wait to find out where you're going.
I know. It's going to be fun. We're so excited now that stuff is opening up, and we've just really been waiting for that, for things to open so we can show people what life is like. And now that we see like Porto really coming alive, it's going to be great to just highlight and show people like great places to live. So more information for that to come. But I did notice that someone was asking about vaccines as well, and if they were going to be required. So, and then someone else had commented on thinking that they were not. What do you know about vaccines right now? We'll just talk briefly about this, but what do you know about the vaccines?
I don't know anything about them in Portugal. I really don't know. I know that, am I able to mention Carl's daily show?
Yeah, of course.
No, he does updates when he finds out stuff about that. That's Expats Portugal. And he has had different experts on, and also people who are in the know and stuff. So I don't know what that, how that's looking at the moment. I think things change all the time. I do know of people who've been phoned up and offered vaccines. So local people like Brits, who I think it's just Brits that I know of, but Brits who are here who have registered for the local like social services, like the doctor, the sort of medicine care. They've been offered vaccines, but beyond that, I don't really know.
So real quick, I'm going to jump in here. Georgina, thanks for the super chat and for watching our neighborhood guys. Glad you're liking those. And then Hardvark for a beer. Thank you.
I love it.
I know, that's awesome. So for vaccines, I do know that because we're set up with the SNS, and I saw somewhere that when it's your turn, because they have your information, they are supposed to text you. And the latest I heard is that they're still vaccinating 50 and above. So obviously we're low on the list because of our age and we don't have any health issues. So supposedly they're supposed to contact you, like you said, and then you go and you can get it done. But because they had a pretty big shortage for a while, they're still kind of catching up. I think they're rolling now for those of you who are wanting it, but we've kind of heard maybe end of the summer would probably be where we're going to land, again, because of our age and just no health issues. But it does seem like they're not pushing it to get it done. I have heard some talk, though, about possibly needing it to travel within the EU. I don't know if it's going to be like a vaccine passport or what that's really going to look like. But proof of the vaccine, I think that they're still undecided about all that stuff, and they're still talking about it. So nothing is definite. Nothing's been set in stone. But it doesn't seem like it's going to be, like, for right now, it's not necessary to come here. But what is necessary is the negative test to get into the country. But as far as needing the vaccine, it being required, it doesn't seem like that's going to happen. But who knows? We're not sure yet.
I mean, it's lovely seeing people out and about now.
Yes.
You know, it's good. I mean, we've been to the beach a few times, and it was such a joy to just get out there and see people just relaxing. But I heard that if you're on the beach now, you have to wear a mask, and you can only take your mask off when you're sat down on your beach towel. And then if you get up to go into the water, you have to put your mask back on, apparently.
You have to wear it in the water?
I don't think you have to wear it in the water, but you have to, like,
what are you supposed to do with it?
I have no idea. I've absolutely no idea. Maybe Carl can, like, mention, like, he was once telling me that story. So he must have got it from some news source, and maybe he can put it in the chat comments. But I was like, oh my goodness, that's taking a bit too far. But
I think they're still trying to sort out, especially now that they're opening up a bit more. I think a little bit of the hesitancy to make sure that it just doesn't go crazy, because I actually saw that Portugal has been for a while, they've been the lowest numbers in the EU. So they're doing a really great job of managing it. So I think now that stuff's opening up a little more, they're being a bit hesitant. But I have seen just a lot more people, out. And then if you're out in a big space, like walking on a boardwalk or in a park, it's nice to be able to have that off. It's a little harder, like in the downtown city area, because you're so close to people, so you can't really social distance. But we're just seeing a lot more liberty, and especially like walking up a hill. It's really nice when I'm pushing that stroller, walking up the hill, to be able to pop it down and breathe a little better, rather than how it was like a while back where it's like everyone had to have the mask on. So so that's been nice. Oh, this is a great question that just popped up. J. Kim, which bank do you recommend? So we have had some questions about banks. Louisa, go ahead on that, and then I got some stuff that I can say.
We use two different banks. So we've each got a personal account with Millennium, and they seem to be everywhere, and they seem to be good. We've got health insurance with them as well, and I think life insurance as well. So we found them to be good. I mean, I don't know how you kind of rate a bank. I've never. They either do what they say they're going to do, or they don't. And as far as I'm concerned, they do what you're expecting them to do. So, on that, I would recommend them. We've also got our business accounts with Eurobic. And you don't see those banks so frequently. Like when you're out and about, you see Millennium a lot more, that I've noticed. But Eurobic have been really good as well. For the business accounts, it was easy to set up. One thing about going to a bank, just allow loads and loads of time, because you have something like 20 odd forms to sign.
Yes, it's actually a really long process. Did you sign on like a tablet as well? It wasn't even like hand sign. Ours wasn't on tablet.
Oh no. We were able to do ours in person and on forms, and it was just like one after the other, after the other, after the other. And even more actually when we're setting up our business accounts, it just took forever. So just be aware of that. Like if you've got don't double book yourself, give yourself a whole afternoon.
Definitely. Also, it is a process.
If you're doing anything kind of legal or kind of office based, really just double check, get your phone out, check the opening times, because you'll come a cropper if you're expecting them to be open and they're closed for lunch or something, or they've got reduced staff. It's a bit of a pain, but I think they're great.
Yeah, good recommendations there. So with us as well, we would recommend Millennium. We have them, and we've had a good experience with them. Their app runs really well. I know that some others have said other banks, the apps aren't as good. And then for us, for Americans right now, the opening up of a bank account is required as part of your D7 visa. So for those of you who are looking for that service. We are so happy that we have an affiliation with a company called Border, BORDR.IU is where you can find them. And they started off helping people with NIFs, because that was also another requirement for the D7 visa. And they've been working really hard for the past few months trying to figure out how to open up a bank account remotely, because this is something that was very new for Portugal. They weren't allowing that, or you'd have to go through a lawyer or a relocation company, and it was really, really expensive. So Border has recently opened up that service. And if you use the code expats everywhere, you can get $10 off on the NIFs and on the bank account. So we would highly recommend them. We've gotten really good feedback from our viewers who have used them. You get that $10 off, which helps a little bit. And it is Millennium that they open. So it not only is the service really good with Border, getting things done, opening it up remotely, but they are able to get a really good bank that's all over Portugal. So that's really important too. So for those of you who need a D7, and it's not even just Americans now, I know that Brits now, because of Brexit, things are a little different for you guys as well. So for those of you who need to open stuff up remotely, especially the NIFs and the bank accounts, we would highly recommend the company Border, BORDR.IU. And then you can use our code just for a little bit of money off. But I would recommend Millennium as well. They seem to be a good one. It looks like we have another super chat. Josh got his beer money. So how about a pastry for Sia? Oh yes. Thank you, Eric. That's so sweet of you.
Kaylee, I've noticed a couple of people asking about different areas to live in, and somebody asking about the area from Cascais to Caldas de Rainha. That's TD that's asking that. We've just moved a smidge away from Caldas.
Wait, Binky out. I think she sees Eric's comment about the pastry. Go get yourself a pastry, little one. Here, Binky.
She's so cute.
She's having a daddy time right now.
She's gorgeous.
Yeah, thanks. So that's really funny. I think, she loves her pastries. So Eric, thank you so much for that. Josh can get a beer, and Sia will get a pastry. Okay, sorry, go ahead. Josh just came running in here because of the pastry. So go ahead, talk about the different areas you were saying.
Yeah, Caldas de Rainha. We just moved literally just down the road from there. And we first arrived, like when we first arrived 4 years ago, our camper van broke down just not very far from that. And we had to, in the end, get it, what's the word? It gets crushed. I mean, we had to get it completely decommissioned because they couldn't fix it.
They just crushed it. They literally crushed it and got rid of it.
That's what happened. It got scrapped. It got totally scrapped. Like on our insurance, that the Portuguese companies that they were working with couldn't replace the parts that we needed for our camper van because it was Japanese. So don't come over if you're coming from the UK or any other European countries. Come in a camper van where they have parts, okay? But our camper van literally breathed its last moments in this garage down the road. We didn't realize, at the time, but where we've just moved to, we are literally just around the corner from where our camper van was officially scrapped. But Caldas, when we first came here 4 years ago, we really liked the area, and we've just moved down here again. But you've got some amazing beaches. So there's a lovely beach. TD, I don't know what kind of, you've just said you need the most sunshine. The closer you get to Cascais, probably the more sunshine you're going to get than at Caldas. But the beaches are really great. And if you're after a wild beach to go surfing on, then the further north you go, I think the better off you are. Like Nazaré is fantastic. But if you're looking for, we want safe beaches, because obviously we've got small kids. And there's this beautiful bay called São Martinho de Porto. And it is amazing. It's a little donut, a little croissant shaped beach. And it's on the Atlantic coast. It's only 10-15 minutes drive from where we are. It's also got a small train station, and you can actually get on the train from Caldas. That's one of the benefits of Caldas, I think, is the fact that it's got its own train station taking you straight down to Lisbon, which is fantastic. So you've got that. You've got the locality to the beaches. It's pretty good. And yeah, when the sun's out, it's lovely and warm. It's warm enough for most Brits. I don't know where you're where you're sat at the moment, TD, and how hot you need it to be. But yeah, it's good.
Yeah,
It's
that's
amazing.
good to know. And that's hopefully with the project that we have coming up, we'll be able to get around to some of these smaller places and really dive in and take a look at what life would be like there, or even just visiting there, but really what life would be like there. Because a lot of people know about Lisbon, Porto, and some of the bigger
Yeah.
cities, but like not so much the smaller cities. And Portugal is just so great and so beautiful with lots to offer and different things to offer. So yeah, so that's awesome, awesome, good advice.
I
Let's get
suggest
to
Tamar on your list. Tamar is definitely worth a stay.
Okay, good to know. Good to know. All right, Daniel is asking, how's the political environment there? Is it very polarized, like in the U.S.? You want to handle that one?
Mm, I don't really know, to be fair, because I try to avoid the news. I watch the elections, and I know that the like so-called far right group did a lot better than people were expecting, but I don't think it like really blew anyone out of the park or anything, you know.
Yeah,
But
I'm the
beyond that,
same.
I really try and keep out of it.
Yeah. I would say around Porto, it's interesting because you'll just one day go into a big square and you'll see political signs. And it's
Mhm.
clear that it's allowed to be there.
Yeah.
It's not just people putting stuff up and the police having to take them down or something that's unorganized. I would say it's definitely organized looking. But you will see, like, we've seen protests outside of town hall. We're normally with the baby, so we don't really get very close. But we have seen, especially now that stuff's warming up and opening up because of COVID, we are seeing more like political posters being put up. So there is that. I don't know. I mean, it's hard to say because when you walk around, people are quite friendly. So I don't think people seem really nasty in other ways. I'm not really sure politically how things are going. I'm the same with you. I mean, I just think a lot of governments around the world have issues. All of them do. And it's just a downer. It's no fun talking about politics. It's no fun diving into that stuff. So on that note, I'm going to move on to Carol, who thank you for the super chat, said your videos are so informative. Can't wait for your tour of Portugal videos. So thank you. That's a way more positive note than politics. So thank you for that, Carol. Okay, Aardvark with another question. I'm coming alone. Is the public transportation good in most of Portugal? I'm looking at maybe Tamar, Nazaré, Tavira, to name a few.
Mm-hmm.
All right, Louise said.
I can talk about Tamar. Tamar's got a railway station, and it's got quite a good bus system. The railway station is at the end of a line, so it's not like stuff goes through it, like stuff arrives. So I think with Tamar, if you want to go to any of the bigger cities and stuff, you have to sometimes come out of it to get onto a different line, but it's still there. And it's a really, really big train station. By Portuguese standards, it's a good sized one. They've also got I think little tuk-tuks in Tamar. I don't know if they're still running. I think I might have even seen some cycle lanes. So, it's pretty good. It's not also you've got the Camino that doesn't, like the big walk that people do. And there are stopping places near and around Tamar. So it has quite a few people moving in and out of there. So I think that's pretty good. I don't really know about Tavira. Nazaré, I don't know about the public transport, but just as some advice, I would definitely if you have the finances, or if you have a driving license, I would recommend hiring a car if you're going to go to lots of different places, because the cost of hiring a car, are you coming at the end of the year? I think I recall you saying October time. I can't really remember, but in the summer, hiring a car is really, really expensive. It's something like 4 times as much as it is the rest of the time. But if you're just hiring a car for a week or two, it's really inexpensive, and it's a blip. It's really easy because the roads just aren't busy, and it's very, very easy to get out and about. I've not tried hitchhiking, so I can't recommend that.
Yeah, I don't.
I've done that in other countries and had a blast. Like in France, it's actually quite commonplace. So, it's not an issue at all.
I would say, when we look at the rail system, getting around Portugal is pretty easy by train. So that and it's very modern. So if you want to travel around Portugal, then I think that's fine. In any of the bigger cities, you've got metros, buses, you have ways of getting around, Ubers everywhere. And then I think in the smaller cities, a lot of it's quite walkable, or you will have, there is some form of public transportation. So even if you didn't want to get a car, you don't want to have a car for day-to-day life, at least, like I think public transportation is pretty good, unless you're going to be out in the country somewhere. Then you're going to need a car.
You're going to need one if you're in the country. You're going to need a car.
Yeah, definitely. Okay, let's move on. Trav, thank you so much for the super chat. Big question. A lot of people are asking this. Can you talk about taxes for new residents? Given the changes to NHR after 2020, what was your experience with paying taxes? Louisa, what do you know about taxes for Brits? Let's talk about that.
I don't actually know anything. I'm really sorry. We've got an accountant, that we use for her to calculate how much tax we need to pay from our businesses. I have absolutely no idea, but I know that there are lots of forums that you can go to get sort of intel on that, because people, I mean, the good thing about expats and the sort of expat community at large, they're very, very open about what's going on. And, if someone comes a cropper, if someone has a difficulty with something, they put it out there, to see who else is going through it. So we all kind of back each other up. So I would absolutely check in a forum. I really can't say. And so I would invite anyone that has some experience with that to share that. I really stay on the fluffy end of being an expat, and my husband does a lot of the more formal stuff, because I'm wrapped up in childcare most of the time.
True.
Yeah, and I kind of outsource that to my husband. I'm sure if you need him, I could call him in and he could answer things for you.
Well, or of course you could go over. Carl has he has a daily chat, doesn't he, on for Expats Portugal? So that's definitely something you can jump on and talk to him about on there, because he covers those issues. But I would say, so the big thing is that we know of is there's just been a recent change. Like Trav said, 2020 finished, and starting in 2021 at the beginning of this year, they're starting to tax different things. So I know there's like a 10% tax on different things coming from the US, which before that they didn't have. You still have your NHR scheme, which gives you the kind of the tax breaks for 10 years. But then after that, you're supposed to, the tax breaks are done, and you go back to, or you start paying the normal Portuguese taxes. Lots could change in 10 years, who knows, but it is a little difficult to navigate. And because it has just started this year, there's a lot of confusion around it. So even when you talk to, I would say, different accountants and different lawyers, there's some different ideas of how this is looking, because it's kind of been rolled out in crazy times anyway. So I think there's still a lot of information out there that's going to start coming up, and we'll, when we do it next year, we'll definitely get out there and tell everyone. But I think it's because it's so complicated and because it's so new, we'll probably hire someone as well. It'll just be easier, at least to get started. And I don't think it'll be super expensive, but it seems like it's better to hire someone and do it right than do it wrong, or just be confused, especially because you're in a new country. It's a different language, it's different governments, stuff like that. So Trav, that's a really good question. Like, be on the lookout for that stuff. Definitely check the different forums, like Louisa was saying, because a lot of it's new and a lot of it's kind of just happened as well, like with March and April taxes being due here. But definitely be on the lookout for more information for that. And when we get stuff, we'll put it out there too, because we know that a lot of people are asking about that. So that's a good question. Okay, so moving on, I want to say, like,
sorry, I was giggling at the comments coming in. Like Katie Ray was asking about trains, and I just thought of one thing that I should share with the trains. If you're getting the high speed, have you had the high speed train journey yet, Kaylee?
We did it a long time ago. We haven't done it yet since we've been back living here, but we did it when we visited a while ago.
And what did you notice, like when it pulls up at stop? Did you notice anything about it?
I don't remember. It was too long ago. Why were you getting that?
Something like 15 seconds to get up and get off. It is absolutely super fast. So like all of the usual trains, like the normal trains that you pay normal prices for, they're kind of slow and sleepy, and they've got these almost handsome, I should say, they've got these kind of conductors that almost look like they're film extras. They're very smart. They're much smarter than British ones. And, they're not like, they actually look like they enjoy their jobs, and they're very polite and stuff, and they come and talk to you. And if you're a mum in particular, or if you've got kids, or if you've got loads of shopping, they watch out for you as they're pulling up. They will stand on the platform. hold the doors open, make sure that you get off, and they'll help. And very, very, they really assist you. But if you get the super fast train, there's nothing like that at all. Like, it's the high train experience. And I got it from Coimbra down in the direction of Lisbon to get out at another stop. And just so happened that I had a cat box with 3 kittens in and a baby in a sling. And I was trying to get down the carriage, and it's really, really short, like narrow. So I'm trying to, get off with this tiny baby and these 3 kittens. And then like I went to get out the door and it just shut, and I was trying to push it open with a button. And in the end, someone had to come and help and like really force it. And so I managed to get off, but I'd have just been whizzed to Lisbon. I wouldn't have had any choice. It's like there was nobody you could talk to. So if you are getting those high speed trains, you have to be quick. Like if you're going on a jolly, on some kind of boozy weekend to Porto or something, you cannot run the risk of being tanked up on one of those trains, because you will absolutely come across that.
They will not wait for you. That's why they're so fast. They don't go any faster on the rail. They just don't stop in the stations. You have to they just pull through and you jump off as it keeps going. That's why they're faster.
Push you off, and also when they arrive, you've got to get on there really quick. All
right, good advice. Good to know.
Oh, and also on the train station as well, on the platform. Sorry, it's a lot, because we used to live near a train station, so we used to use the trains all the time, and they're great fun. But you must stand right back, because when those fast trains come in, they almost knock you off your feet. Like the power of them, the noise of them, the speed of them. Absolutely stand right back. Just follow what the Portuguese do, because nobody does. Nobody stands right near the edge. When those high trains come in, it's scary.
You want to be close. Okay, good to know. Victoria, hi ladies, question for you. I'm moving to Portugal on my own and looking for a vibrant community in the Algarve. Any recommendations for a year-round active lifestyle? Ooh. What do you know about the Algarve?
Well, I've got a friend that's just moved there who loves it. I know around Faro area, there's a really nice community of people. I guess a lot of it depends on the types of people you want to be around. I don't have too much experience of the Algarve. Victoria, I know that you check into Carl's shows sometimes, so that might be something. If somebody in this chat room can't answer it, it might be that someone from Carl's show would be able to. But I think Faro and towards the east, I think there are some really, really nice kind of expat friendly community areas, like just they've got a nice vibe. One of our good friends from North America has just moved there, and she's really, really happy there. It's also a brilliant climate. She loves the winter, the idea of the winter there. So
yeah, definitely. I mean, there's a lot to do down there. There are a lot of expats. So especially now that stuff's opening up, I think a lot more of those things will be open, Victoria, for what you want to do. And like I was mentioning before, we're going to head down there and we will be down in the Algarve and checking things out as to what it would be like to live there. So stay tuned on our channel in a couple weeks. Hopefully we'll have some content out for you about that kind of stuff, about lifestyle down there. And then as we move our way up the country, just the livable stuff in different Portuguese cities. So great question. Carol, what was the name of the city you mentioned that you lived in south of Lisbon? It had the floating floor.
I don't know if it's called a floating floor, but it was a underground underfloor heating. But anyway, it was Aroeira. So it was a really lovely golf course that we lived on the outskirts of. So it was about 45 minutes south of Lisbon. So you actually have to cross the river. So it's seen as the less affluent side. And a lot of people are like, ooh, why do you want to live there? It's like the north is the really nice bit. But I have to say, south of Lisbon is almost like an undiscovered gem. It's beautiful. Like you've got Casillas and all these other little towns. You get beautiful seafood, and you've got everything you need, and you can hop over to Lisbon really easy on one of their little boats, or on a train, or in your car. I mean, it's so simple. But we were living a little bit further down. There's the Costa Caparica, which is like the first main area south of Lisbon. And you've got beautiful beaches there, and it's quite lively. It's very, it reminds me of a seaside resort in the UK. It's very lively and holiday based. But then go further down than that, and we were at a place called Herdade de Aroeira. And it's basically a huge golfing complex. And I think there's quite a few Portuguese footballers and and ex-soap actors and stuff living in these like million-pound houses there. And then we were in the cheap seats on the outskirts. It was a like gated community that we were living in, and we were there for about 8 or 9 months. And yes, it was expensive. We paid a lot to live there, but it was beautiful. It was in a pine forest, and we could just like walk through the forest, through the golf course to a bar, and a couple of bars and a restaurant and a hairdresser's. You had everything, you know. It was lovely.
That sounds really nice.
Yes, and it was right by the beach as well. But you know, for us, it was, you know, it's a bit too expensive, and we were just setting up our businesses, so you know, it wasn't going to be a long-term solution. But if ever we made it, then you know, it's a good place to go to. And I tell you what, it's very hot there, really hot.
All right. Well, that's a big draw for a lot of people. You know, they come here and they want the heat. And so that's why I think a lot of the expats end up in the Algarve or just Lisbon and down. I know that. But there are a lot, actually, Americans that we've been helping moving to Porto. And I see that, you know, on the screen, Josh has put up that we do offer a D7 course, kind of a DIY. When we went through the D7, we're on the D7 visas, and we wanted to do it ourselves because it gets really pricey if you're trying to pay for a lawyer or a relocation company. So we wanted to put something together that was super affordable for people, but had videos and text and recommendations, information, like who we used, who we know of other people that they used. So we put that together, and it's going really well. We've gotten a lot of great feedback, and it was fun to do. So right now it's $59 for anyone who's interested, and that's a special promotion price, which will end at the end of May. So if you're interested in that, you can find in the description. It has the link to check out that D7 course for those of you guys who are wanting to move here. Okay, let's move on to Katie. Are you guys planning on making a video about Madeira? Oh, that's a question for us. So that's a good question. Obviously, Madeira and the Azores are very popular as well for islands. So Katie, you're going to have to stay tuned on information for that, because that will be kind of breaking information when we launch this big project and we tell people about it. So in a couple of weeks, we will make announcements. Look, Josh is just putting that on the screen too. We'll make announcements. For everyone who doesn't know, Josh is manning the little comments. So Louisa and I can just chat, you know. But yes, we will be making announcements about that. So stay tuned. But real quick, when we were talking about public transportation, I did want to ask you, Louisa, do you guys own a car?
We don't own one. After the camper van, we've just been hiring cars.
Okay.
We just haven't been sure. Like we lived for a short while in a place called Korea, which was beautiful, and it sounds like Korea, but it's not Korea. It's Curia, and it's a beautiful little town. And it's on a main railway, and we were living within 10 minutes from it. And it's in between Aveiro and Coimbra. And so when we were there, we didn't really need a car because we could walk to the shops, we could get on the train, we could go anywhere we needed. And that was really perfect. But for us to be able to find a place that is kind of small town with a park and with a train station, with everything, we've not managed to find that. It's really, really hard. So right now we just hire a car. And in the summer, when it's really, really hot, we sometimes like maybe don't hire it for like 3 or 4 weeks or maybe 2 months. You know, we just pick it up from our local city. I think Carl is currently going out of Lisbon, and he just keeps extending it at the moment. So like we've got a really good hire car company that we work with, and he picks it up. We're supposed to return it after 3 or 4 weeks, and then we just extend it until they say, okay, no more. And then
we need it back.
The brilliant thing about it is it's really not expensive. It's really, really inexpensive, and you don't have any of the hassle of owning a car, insurance, and this, that, and the other. It's so simple. We've had no problem with it at all. It's been brilliant.
Yeah, that's a nice perk, not having to deal with, like when you buy a car, actually having to deal with, you know, insurance and just the wear and tear of your own car and getting it serviced and everything. But when you hire, it's totally different, right?
Well, buying a car here is really expensive in comparison to the UK and in comparison to a lot of other European countries. For instance, we know a Portuguese person wanted to get a BMW and he wanted to get a new one. It's nice to be able to afford that. He actually chose to buy it from Germany and repatriate it. So he got a train or flew to Germany, picked up his car, drove it across, and then repatriated it. And the cost of repatriating a brand new car and buying a brand new car in Germany was cheaper than it would have been to actually buy it in Portugal.
Wow.
So, the Portuguese people don't always buy their brand new cars. I guess if it's like a grand difference, people will just like buy it, in Portugal, it's not a huge thing. But like, I think he saved like several thousand by doing it that way. So it's definitely worth doing.
No, that's interesting. I saw that Rachel was asking how it would be to have a car in Lisbon. What do you think about that? Traffic, accessibility. I mean, I can weigh in for Porto, but what do you think for Lisbon?
Unless you're needing to do trips to IKEA and move around a lot, I probably wouldn't bother, because like the trams are really good, the trains are really good, and if you're south of the river, you can also get the little regular bus boats, and those boats, I think, on my birthday, which is literally just before Christmas, we went across from Lisbon to the south of Lisbon on the boat, something like 11 o'clock at night. They go really late into the evenings and they start really early in the mornings. You've got really good coverage in Lisbon, unless you're on the outskirts of Lisbon. If you're staying really close in the centre, I really wouldn't worry about having a car,
because then it's more of a hassle.
You got to worry about parking.
Yeah, same thing in Porto. Parking. Ugh.
And also, like Lisbon, it's really hilly. So like when you're driving around like the outskirts of it, it's nice and flat and easy. But if you're kind of coming off into these little enclaves and stuff, you're going up these really narrow roads made of cobblestones up. And if you get stuck in a hill start there, it's really difficult. I wouldn't. It's a hassle.
Yeah, I would say.
Unless you love driving and the challenge of parking in tight spaces and stuff, then do it, but otherwise don't.
Yeah, it's really the same in Porto. I mean, you've got to consider like the one-way streets, the traffic, the parking isn't great, and then you have to pay for parking, whether it's, on the streets or the parking garages. And so really, I think in any of the cities, there's no point, because they're so well connected by public transportation, and there is Uber as well. So if you are, when we go to IKEA and make a run that has big stuff, then when we just Uber it, so that's really in Lisbon, Porto, probably even Braga too. But if you're further out, then that's when you have the issues, right?
Yeah, we haven't come across Uber everywhere. We were able to get Uber in our posh golfing place from there to Lisbon. I don't think we could get it in Tamar. I think you can get it in Coimbra. But so I think Uber is very much in the three cities, all four main cities.
It's great here. We literally will hire right before we're ready to go, because it's like a minute away. If you hire too soon, like they're there and you're like, oh no, you're quick, out the door. So so we literally need to be out the door, and then we hire it because we know it's just like right around the corner. So it's great in Porto. Okay, guys, I just want to say we have about 5 minutes left. We're only going to go for an hour, even though I feel like we could probably talk for half a day. So if you want your comments to be seen before we sign off here, then Super Chat is open, so you guys can go for that. Let's see. Michael saying, Louisa, are you guys going to buy a place somewhere, or are you happy to rent?
We've been happy to rent, and the idea is that one day we will buy. And we're in a place that we absolutely love right now, that we may end up buying at some point in the near future. But yeah, we've rented our way around Portugal, and we've also house sat as well, which has been fun. And we've also done a small renovation project, where we lived in a house and renovated it as part of our rent. So, we've been really open to different things, and it's allowed us to explore. I really can't emphasize enough the benefits of exploring around Portugal, because everywhere you go, you'll see like another town. Like you think you're just about to settle somewhere, and then you think, oh my god, that place is so nice, I could really live there. And you see a house, and you think, okay, I'm going to buy it. So I would really take your time and explore it. And so renting for us has been good. We've been paying like 450 euros. We're currently paying 400. And we live really well for that. Obviously you can't live on that in cities. When we were in our posh golfing house, we were paying 1,200 a month, which is obviously a lot more. So our money goes much further right now.
Yeah, definitely.
One day we'll have our own place for sure.
Okay, good. I know that before we started this, a couple people wrote in, they were asking, but with kids for education. So if you just want to quickly, like, what's your experience with the schools here with education? And then also you had a baby here. So just a little bit about that stuff. So I wanted to have you answer that too.
we're not actually we're home educating, so we're not actually at schools. So we can't really answer that. We do know people who have sent their kids to schools, and our old babysitter is a trainee teacher, and her family's teachers, and so we know some of the teachers here, and they are lovely. The schools are smaller in size. They're much more friendly. Carla's also gone and done. He's taught at schools a couple of times. He's done presentations there, and I've been invited to do presentations at local schools as well. So they're really open. They're not very suspicious. You know, like in the UK, I was really surprised that Carl could just go in and teach in a school because, you know, in the UK you'd have to get checked, you'd have to get some kind of sign off, and there was nothing like that. So they're very trusting. And, you know, I think the idea is that they're really, really lovely. We're homeschooling, so we've actually registered our eldest with an international remote school. So he's registered to an American international school, and we're able to homeschool from that basis.
Was that an easy process getting him registered?
Yeah, we just like wherever you live, if you go to the schools, like if you want to go to school, or if you want to officially homeschool, they want you to register at a local school. But where we've moved around, we heard about quite a few. There's loads of people that homeschool in Portugal, and so there are lots of different routes. And wherever you go and wherever you stay, you'll hear different stories as to what the right thing is. So a lot of it depends on where you are. Because we've been quite mobile, we've just registered with an international school that lots of other homeschoolers here do. In terms of birthing, again, we don't really do things in a really official way. Like our first two children.
What'd you do?
Our first two children were born in the UK in hospital. But here, when we were in Portugal, we wanted to have a home birth. I'd had two really easy births and really wanted a home birth. And we contacted a registered midwife who was, you know, legally allowed to do home births. Now, not many Portuguese people know about that. So like if you talk to different people, like when we registered the birth of our son at the local town hall, they were saying, what, you did a home birth? How is that possible? They didn't even know it was legal still. But 30 years ago, it was most people were born at home. You know, it's really just changed in the last 30 years. But there are lots of home birth experts all around Portugal. Most of them actually are foreign. So, for instance, our midwife who is registered, she's been living here, I think, for 40 years or so, and she's Dutch. And so she knows the system, she knows what she's doing. And so she just came to our house where we were staying and assisted in the birth. And it was all very peaceful and very, very good. But one thing I would say is have healthcare set up. We were really lucky because if something had gone wrong with our home birth, we could have been in big trouble because we were quite away from a hospital. We weren't at an address where people could easily find it. So, you know, I would, in retrospect, I just think we were a bit high on hormones, and we were very lucky that it went well. So I think it's definitely worth like considering these things. If you are going to have a home birth or do anything like that, find an address that's easy to access. You know, you can get those 3-word locations, you know, like you can drop a Google pin into somewhere. I think there's a company or there's a website you can go to, and there's 3 unique words that are used to identify every single square meter of planet Earth. Get the code for where you're living, you know, and get all the care that you can. But it was possible to have a home birth, and it was really, really easy to do in a way that we couldn't have done it in the UK. Actually, it's much more prohibited there. It's very difficult. So hope that
good to know. Yeah. I mean, that's a personal preference thing, right? And some ladies want to do that, and so that's good to know that it's possible in Portugal, and the advice is good. I just want to say real quick, Aardvark is given another super chat for a second beer for Josh, but where's our beer? Come on, Aardvark. What is this? Why is Josh? Because Josh has to watch the baby right now, so he has to be drinking. So
something, couldn't he? You know.
Yeah. That's funny. Okay, guys. Well, I said we'll keep this to an hour, but it was really fun, Louisa, having you back on because it was awesome that so many people are interested in what you had to say about Portugal in your first interview. And again, guys, if you haven't seen that, we'll put that in the description below. You can find it on our channel. It's doing really well. And so we wanted to get you back on and just chat a little more about some stuff that we had, and people sent in questions. And so it was really good. It was really fun to do this. And this is our first time actually using this portal, I guess you could say. So it's something that we would like to do again. So guys, if you want to see this again, then definitely put that in the comments, and stay tuned for what we have going on with traveling around Portugal. And Louisa, thank you so much.
Thank you so much. I think you and Josh aced it. You did really, really well. What an amazing show you've done.
Thank you. And TD right there at the death, a super sticker. Thanks, guys, for all the super chats and super stickers. And we will see you guys soon. Bye.
Love. Ciao, ciao.